question.
You can take
Bring
6
them off as
hours.
resentment. I don't think it will. Judging on
Generally speaking, if you have to say that it might come off as rude,
I don't think it will, but I just can see it. I can see it 2% weight, just like that long
That's
message.
2%? Okay, for 2%.
How much is that hair?
Wow.
Is that rude?
That's like way more than 2%. It's just odd.
I just want to know.
Yeah, alright.
Is it offensive?
It's not offensive.
Here
It's fine.
until right here.
All
Isn't
of
that
this hair is
message
mine
alone?
because I
Yeah,
bought
that's a
it.
lot.
This is Ariana Namir. She is one out of the only 117 black students attending Chapman University. What you just heard is a conversation between her and one of her coworkers. This is just one example of the ignorance she faces on campus every day.
I hadn't considered diversity as an issue for any of the schools that I applied to or looked into. Really, I even wrote in one of my essays how I thought Chapman's value of diversity was really cool because of the I Am Chapman wall. I wrote about that. So it's interesting how my perception has changed.
How has it changed?
I think Chapman does a great job advertising wanting more diversity and inclusion. But as far as providing those resources on campus, I think it has to improve. Growing up in Boulder, I had always kind of been used to one of the few, if not the only, black student in the classroom. So I didn't get a culture shock from the students and like moving in and orientation week. That was all pretty simple, but not being able to go back home and reset in my identity and, go back and see my mom who looks like me, who thinks like me, and reaffirmed my identity, that's where the difficulty came from. Being in classrooms where we're talking about black issues or something like that, and then instantly having everyone look at me to answer was odd, but then not having my mom to be able to talk through that, which was the most difficult part.
We got a student's perspective, but what are the thoughts of the administration? We interviewed the Dean of Student Affairs, Jerry Price, to get a response.
So it doesn't surprise me that students feel that way. I think our best efforts are to, one, try to minimize that impact, and also, two, to help students prepare for what is going to be inevitable. Now, I think those students benefit enormously from learning how to navigate and succeed in an environment in which they feel so underrepresented.
Jerry Price claimed that 2017 had the most diverse incoming freshmen it has seen yet. But all anybody has to do is look around campus and see there isn't a whole lot of change. There is a 50% white population compared with less than a 2% black population, or about 117 students. Loyola Marymount has a black population of little over 6%, or about 395 black students. Thankfully, there are organizations that give students who feel a lack of representation a sense of belonging, such as the Black Student Union.
BSUs from all across California basically meet up, and we have a great weekend of learning about our identity, learning how to event plan better, also just like having fun. It's great. And with that conversation, we tell them all the time our percentage, and it's astonishing because I had a student actually from Berkeley tell me, why would you put yourself through that much violence? And it's not, and it was great to talk to a black person who understood that, because it's not physical violence, but it is emotional, it is mental. And ultimately I love Chapman, and that's why I'm here. I love the degree that I'm pursuing. I've gotten wonderful friends, but it is trauma sometimes.
According to a new study, 3 out of 4 college students reported a stressful life event within the past year. However, due to a lack of representation in predominantly white schools, black students experience higher minority-related stress than Asian Americans or Latino students.
It is discouraging, hurtful to know students feel that way. But the cognitive side of me says, what we don't know is how that student would feel if she went to any other predominantly white institution or any other institution that had such a small percentage of black students. And but again, I wonder to what extent numbers make that big a difference.
When asked who's responsible in addressing the issues of diversity on campus, Ariana puts the burden on the university.
That's not our job to do the job of the administration. Ultimately, we are paying them for a service, and so we want them to fulfill that service. Sure, we could, and I'm just a person that I do want to make it better for the next person, but I want to make it better so that way someone doesn't have to be worrying about being the only black person in the class. So that way they can come here, spend their money, get their degree, and go. Because I think that's, and that's a really short way of looking at, what the college experience is. But there's a lot of trauma that comes with trying to fix an administration all the time, when really you just want to be educated. You don't want to have to constantly educate.
Dean Price, on the other hand, believes otherwise.
The notion that it's the university administration's responsibility to do these things alone really misses, I think, the point. I mean, I think there's things we can't do, but I think it's naive to think that there's administrative things we can enact that are going to suddenly make things better. So I think it's got to be more important that we got to work together and not make it a you versus us type of situation where we kind of collaboratively try to solve.
Ariana is expected to graduate this spring. Before she graduates, however, she has one request for Chapman's administration.
Chapman has spent, I would say, my whole college career in dialogue, which I commend them for. But I really want to see that transition happen from inquiry and what are we asking and what do we want to change, and actually make those things happen.